Okay, now let's look at the buy break setup. If we go over and drag the BB setup line onto the chart, we get the same four lines we had before: the buy stop loss, the buy break even, and the buy take profit lines. But we also have a max candle high line in there on this as an option. And let me explain what these lines are doing. The buy break line would be used if you want to enter a trade long, like you did with the buy stop line, except you don't want to do it as soon as price touches that line. You only want to do it if the current candle closes above that line. So this is going to depend on what time frame you're in. If you're in an hour time frame, you're going to wait longer for that hour candle to close than if you're in a 15 or a 5-minute time frame. So there's your buy break line. The stop loss line we've talked about. Do you understand that? Let me just set that down in here someplace. The buy break even line works the same as we've discussed so far. So I'm going to put that in there, just anywhere to take some profits once we hit that point. And the buy take profit I'll put up in here someplace. Now the other line that we haven't talked about is the max candle high line. And what that's for is to prevent the case where you have a runaway candle. So if we wanted to get into this trade, if our candle closed, say, up in here, a little bit above the line, and then we open the trade long, that would be great. But what if we hit a candle that all of a sudden just takes off and races 100 pips up? We probably don't still want to get into that trade. We missed it. So we can put a max candle high line that says, get into this trade if the candle closes above the buy break line, but does not close above the max candle high line. In other words, if it goes too far, forget it. We don't want to do this trade. Alright, now we're going to talk about using diagonal lines to get in and out of trades using the Forex Target Trader. It's one of my favorite applications because diagonal lines are a little less straightforward in the amount of time it takes to manage them than using horizontal lines, because every time a candle closes, you're at a different point on the line, so you may have to make adjustments, or you may have to come back and see if it's time to make the move you want, etc. In this case, which is going to be very simple, I see a predominant uptrend here with a pullback, and I'm looking to enter here. If I can get a break through this last little run up, because I saw it looked like it was going to die, but then it reversed itself pretty hard, actually broke through a line that I was watching, which was this, and has come back and kind of retouched it. And I'm saying to myself now, if it breaks through this line right here, I'm going to be pretty confident it's going to keep on going. This demonstrates a couple of things. I can have lines all over the chart as usual anytime I want, but when I want to use one of them to trade, I just double click it, right click it, trend line properties, and give it the name of the line that I want. In this case, I'm going to call it a buy break line. BB means if a candle closes above this line, I'm going to be in long, and that's just what I want. In this case, I probably want to put a stop loss line somewhere. Click a horizontal line and put it down below this point. That seems like a pretty reasonable place to put a stop loss. And I'm going to double click that. I'm going to right click it, horizontal line properties, and call it a buy stop loss, BSL. Okay, and here's what happens. It turns into my buy stop loss line. This line is still labeled buy break, and now I've got a trade ready to go, except I don't have a target profit line. And you see that these markers here, they're just indicators. They don't do anything as far as placing trades, but this shows you where, based on my current position, my current line, my current stop loss, where the risk-reward ratio would be if I want a 1-to-1 return versus the risk I'm taking. Gives the user an indication of where they might want to put their take profit lines depending on what risk-reward ratio they're looking for. Okay, same chart, one more example of a diagonal line, this time used to exit a trade. If I were long in this sequence coming up through here, I might want to stay in this trade as long as I don't break through this line. And you can give yourself a little bit of buffer, because sometimes price shoots down and does little things like this and just touches and glances. So if you want to avoid those just little glancing blows, you can back it off a little bit. But I'm going to label this double click, right click, trend line properties, buy stop loss, BSL. And in this case, what I've done is, assuming that I get into this trade with the EA trader using either a market buy or a buy stop or a buy break line or something along those lines, a buy limit line. I got into a trade somewhere along the line, and somewhere in here I'm seeing nice gains, and I want to stay in the trade as long as I can, but I want to be ready to get out if it looks like this trend's going to be broken. So I draw this line, and I'm going to stay in this trade until this happens, until right there when it breaks that line, and that gets me out. And in this case, that was a beautiful thing, because you can see it's just kind of drifted lower since then. So that's using a really nice intelligent trailing stop kind of a technique, because every candle that closes, you incrementally lock in guaranteed more and more profit, and you just kind of trail up, come back every once in a while, see if your trade's still open. If it's not, walk away if you're still happy with where that line is. Okay, first we did some horizontal lines by dragging a script file onto the chart, and then we did some diagonal lines, and I demonstrated those by just drawing a line and then renaming them to suit my purposes. I can actually do a kind of a hybrid process, drag the script file on, in this case for say a sell break trade, and it'll give me my 4 lines, and then I can position them where I would like them. My stop loss maybe up in here, maybe I want a sell break even line, I'll leave that there, and I want to put my sell take profit down in here after a nice run. But in this case, what I'd really like to do is have my sell stop line actually be a diagonal. So first I want to make sure all these other lines are unclicked, because I want to keep those where they are, and then I'm going to delete this sell stop line right off the chart and replace it with a manually drawn one, just like we did before. There's my line, double click, right click, trend properties, relabel it, sell stop. Okay, so what's going to happen? This line's going to turn into my sell stop line. Once it breaks through there, touches that line, the trade will actually open. I'm going to force this trade by demonstrating something you can do. You can actually just move the line up into the price, and that will trigger the trade to open. A message says there's a new EA sell, and by the way, that same time could have sent me an email alert. You can look in your printed documentation to see how to do that. Alright, just a quick review. We just talked about how to use the lines to set up and manage your trade, and we talked about the names and functions of the lines and the script files that we use for horizontal lines, the manually drawn diagonal lines, and an approach that starts off with script files using horizontal lines and then deletes and replaces one of those lines with manual diagonal lines to suit whatever purposes you want. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back with the next video, we'll continue with some more features and functionality of this Forex target trader.